Hey YouTube land, I'm starting on my truck repair. Not doing it where I was going to be doing it. The buddy whose house we were going to do it at, well, yesterday he had the excuse, my kids have soccer then again today, and he knew that I only had 2 days where I could do it this week, which was yesterday and today. Same guy that when I had family emergencies, he got mad at me because I wouldn't drop everything and go get arcade games with him. Anyways, this wheel has been on since July of 16. Now, July of 16, I had to change my brake rotors. All 4 brake rotors were warped. This right front one, I had to change all the brake hardware, the caliper slides. One was bent, and I changed the brakes in 2015 and put on good pads, and between the time I changed them and 2016, one of the slides is bent, so I changed both the caliper slides, and the bolt for this one. Let's see how easy this wheel comes off here. All that I did is I took the lug nuts off. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. You see you see how the hub of this wheel looks so silver? And the hub of that brake rotor looks silver, and all those lug studs got all that silver goop on them. That is anti-seize. On this truck, if you put a wheel on without that on there, you will have to fight for 5 minutes to get the wheel off. I just took the lugs off, I loosened them up, then I took them off my hand, and the wheel was still sitting there with no lugs on it, and I just touched it and it came off. So now you see why I love anti-seize. Some folks may not. There's that guy up in Northeast Ohio that doesn't like it for various things. For this here, aluminum wheels against a steel hub, we get a lot of problems with galvanic corrosion and people destroying aluminum wheels getting them off. When I first got this truck, the first time I took the wheels off was a year later. No, 2 years later, 2012. I took the wheels off to rotate them, and I had to have a sledgehammer to beat on the tires to break the galvanic corrosion bond between the brake hubs and the wheels, and they'd only been on for 2 years because my brother had the brakes checked and the tires rotated in New Jersey before he brought it out to me, and then I went about 5,000 miles and rotated the tires. I haven't put that many miles on this truck since I've had it. In 7 years, I might have went 25 or 30,000 miles. That's all. Anyways, this is the start of the repair. I'm going to try to go in at it through the wheel bearing, if possible. I got to get this CV axle out here to get at the seal, which I can't get the phone to show. The swivel rim links in the way. Those have been changed. It's back in there. You see it back boot? It's back behind that. Instead of taking apart a ball joint, which I really rather not do, I'd rather just pull out the brakes and the wheel hub. I need to check my front pads. I'm thinking that on the back side they might be a bit thin. The front side's looking okay. I'm thinking the back side's a bit thin because my brake pedal travel is getting excessive. And that's usually an indication the front ones are just a bit worn. This here, once your pads get down below half thickness, it feels like you have a very weak and spongy brake pedal. I don't know why. I've never tried to figure it out. Just the way this thing tends to work. I'll see when I get things apart. I'll make some videos to try to string these together. I might upload them singly. I have some internet issues right now, so uploads may be slow coming. YouTube land, here's where I'm at. On my truck, the connector for the ABS unit, it's hard to see. The camera did focus, thankfully, is up here. It connects to the splash shield, so I pulled the tab out of the splash shield. It goes into this keeper, into this keeper, into this keeper. And this one I think is broken because it was already hanging loose. And then there's a bolt on the back of the spindle that comes out to the bearing. I'm going to attempt something and see if it works. Because what we're going after, I can see it from here. Back behind that boot, and back behind there, right, and he's trying to get the camera where you see my hand, but you can't see the finger that was pointing. Okay, where that finger's pointing, see that finger that's moving? That is the area that I'm after. Okay, so it's just behind the axle shaft, the CV axle. It's behind the rear tripod where it goes onto the splines. Now, my way of thinking is why take that nut off if I don't have to, if I just take the hub out and leave the axle connected. I'm going to try that. I don't have a 32mm socket, which is what the book calls for. I'm going to see if an 1 1/4" fits it. I'm going to check it before I do things, I think. But, yeah, I got my brake pads out. Yeah, those came out before I took the slide off. And I'm telling you what, that is still looking pretty good. These are Wagner Severe Duty pads. And I think the problem is my rears are worn out again. This thing goes through rear brake pads in like 6,000 to 8,000 miles. And if somebody's got an explanation on why a Ford Explorer would run through rear brake pads like water, please let me know. I'd like to know. This thing's been worked on by a couple family tree non-Forcus types, so there might be something that was done wrong that I need to correct. All right, I'll be back in a while. Okay, YouTube land, I made a error because I assumed I could leave the steering knuckle and the upper ball joint, which I can't to do this job. The problem is this rear dust shield for the wheel bearing, and that's what it does. The CV axle has a little boot on the end that sits up against that, and then this sits behind the wheel bearing, and it keeps the back of the bearing from getting full of debris. That there will not hammer out or hammer in without destroying it, and I don't want to destroy it. I don't have one to replace it. So I had to take the taper loose up there. You take out the pinch bolt, and then they tell you online, if you look at a few places, there are some videos on YouTube that are helpful. That boot has already got damage to it. That ball joint, I think that upper control arm's been replaced before, I might be mistaken, but that boot already has damage to it, and that is pre-existing damage. That's not fresh. You can see where I hit on it. I used my 3-pound East Wing drilling hammer, and I hit here on the face, not up there. I even tapped it there. I took a pry bar and pried that up out of there. As you can see, my brake caliper, I moved the clip from where it was in the frame, so it's clipped there. It's still clipped to the frame on that side, but it allows the bungee to move and not hold the arm in there. Okay, so that was an error taking that out. But one thing I did do, I don't know where I put it. Oh, it's back in the truck. I used a DeWalt 1/2" drive electric impact that plugs into a 115 volt outlet. It's a 2-prong cord, so it's not grounded. I'll show it at a later date. Anyways, you see that stub shaft in there, and you see that axle seal. Hopefully that matches up the one I got at the parts store, which I was wrong. The one I had that I thought sounded close to it was one part number off. I had a 710 for what I think it was. Well, anyways, this is on the passenger. It's a National 710 478, or is that 28? That I think says 78. They wrote no, it's 428. Okay, 428. 710 428 is this one here, and it's got a rubber lip that sticks out there, and I believe this is the source of the debris. I see rubber, it looks like there's rubber laying down in there. I don't know if it's visible or not. That's probably part of the seal lip that failed. I'll record more on this later.